I know that you have already heard from other silent witnesses. Perhaps you have even found their accounts fascinating. Some of them perhaps a bit hard to believe. I guess I would have difficulty accepting them as accurate too, except for the fact that I too participated in that historic event. Let me tell you what happened to me.
My beginnings were very humble. I was one of a million flax seeds scattered in a field one spring day. We sprouted and soaked up the rain and sun and grew and grew. Then one day, I blossomed with the most beautiful blue flowers. There was a whole hillside of blue.
Somewhere along the way, we were selected for something special. We were harvested to be made into linen. Linen, fine and cool for the summer, smooth as silk against your skin. We were chosen to be made into linen.
It's a special process. First, we were washed, then spun out into long threads. Then we were woven by the finest weavers into a beautiful fabric, linen, from flax in the field. We were made into the finest of linen.
I was cut from the loom, carefully folded and wrapped, and delivered to a merchant. He opened the wrappings and smoothed the folds and tucked me on the shelf for just the right customer. There on the shelf, I waited. My imagination ran wild. Would I be hung to decorate an elegant banquet hall? Or would I be laid on a table as a cloth and stained by wines and foods at a party? Or, this was my dream, would I be draped into a wonderful garment on the body of a queen or king?
Well, I watched as customers came and went, some wealthy, some plain. Then, one day, a wealthy-looking gentleman came into the shop, Joseph of Arimathea. That's who the shopkeeper called him. Treated him with such respect. I could tell he was somebody important, a leader of the synagogue, maybe even a member of the council. I could see it already. I would be draped over the noble body of this man or of his wife. I would be famous. I was right, in a way. I was wrong, too.
And then this Joseph told the shopkeeper that he needed a piece of linen to be used as a burial shroud. I shuddered. You can't imagine the cold, drafty, damp feelings that shot through my fibers. I was to be wrapped around a corpse and buried away in a dark, damp tomb, never to be seen or appreciated again. How utterly degrading. I wish that I had been left in the field to die and go to seed. At least then I would have served a purpose, and there would be another chance, next year's bloom. But to be stuck away in a tomb?
But there was no escaping. I was sold and taken from the shop by the man named Joseph. Shortly, we met up with a man named Nicodemus, another member of the council.
Anyway, Nicodemus had bought about 100 pounds of myrrh and aloes. You see, it was the Jewish custom to wrap a body in linen and place spices and aloes between the wrapped layers. This was supposed to preserve the body. It was a sign of honor. Well, it only made it more certain with those spices. All my hopes were shattered. The horrible truth was absolutely clear.
We came to the cemetery. I was set down on the ground so the two men could get the body I was to be wrapped around. And here's where it got worse. The body was hanging on a cross. I was to wrap the corpse of a criminal who had been crucified? Why didn't they just toss him into the pit over there, or let him be prey to the birds, the way they did with others who had been crucified? After all, criminals weren't entitled to a burial.
Why was this man special? He didn't look special. He just looked dead. Well, they got him down, began to wrap me around him so tenderly, and then strange things began to happen. When the body of the crucified man first touched me, a sensation passed through my entire length.
Every fiber became strong, alive, woven into one purpose. All of a sudden, I felt that being able to touch this man and serve as his shroud was far more important than any other use I could have ever imagined. I knew that I had been set apart from the time I sprouted.
I was a part of a great plan. I didn't understand it, but I knew it. I could feel it through every fiber of my being. Finally, I was completely bound around the body, wrapped tightly against his lifeless flesh. There was no movement, no breathing, no trace of a heart beating. He was indeed without life. I had no idea who this man had been. But if he had such power to change me now, when he was dead, what if he had lived?
But here he was, dead, crucified. And I was here, simply to hold his precious body. And even though I knew he was truly dead, there was a feeling that it wasn't over yet, a feeling that there was more to happen.
We were moved into a new grave, the crucified one and I, that is, laid to rest. We were sealed tightly inside by a huge stone. Darkness, quiet, and emptiness surrounded us. We lay motionless for a couple of days, I guess, and then it was absolutely quiet, totally dark. The emptiness was immense.
We were lying as still as death itself, and I felt movement. I figured that it must be another earthquake. What else would be moving in a grave? Then I realized it was a tugging, a straining against me. It was as though the body I held was trying to expand, as if breath were to re-enter it. Yes, that was it. It was the movement of life, as if there were breaths, as if the silenced heart were pumping. I had no sooner realized what it was when I found myself alone on the slab.
I was in place. I was still bound. I was still filled with spices, but I did not surround a body anymore.
Something beyond imagination had occurred, something I cannot explain. I can only tell you as an eyewitness. It happened.
And I, a shroud of death, had been transformed into a shroud of life. I didn't give life to the crucified one, mind you, but I was allowed to serve him by holding him only as long as he chose to be held.
He was never really bound, and now, so I hear, neither are you. He is free from that which held him, and so are you. I used to think death was the end. Obviously, it's only the beginning, only because of this kind and loving man, the Savior of our world.